Whenever a theme park opens, nobody expects it to close anytime soon. And in 1976, when California's Great America welcomed its first guests, the future looked bright. And for almost 50 years, the park served as one of the best in the area. But unfortunately, California's Great America's days are very numbered. So today, we're going to look at the history of the park, why it's closing in the very near future, and what is next for this iconic Bay Area theme park. California's Great America, then known as Marriott's Great America, opened on March 20th, 1976 as one of 3 planned parks to be built by Marriott, another of which being Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. A third park was planned to be built in the Baltimore, Washington area, but plans fell through when locals disapproved of the idea. The first major expansion to the park came just a year after it opened, with the new roller coaster, Tidal Wave, a Schwarzkopf shuttle loop that opened as the tallest of its kind in the world. The park then spent much of the late 70s adding even more record-breaking attractions, like the 200-foot Sky Tower, which is still the tallest in Northern California, and the first IMAX theater ever in California. The park started the 80s by updating Turn of the Century, an aero corkscrew, by replacing both of its airtime hills with vertical loops. The ride was then renamed Demon and still stands at the park today. In 1985, California's Great America added their biggest roller coaster yet, Grizzly, which was a large for the time wooden roller coaster that also still stands today. The park really hit its stride when it was purchased by King's Entertainment Corporation in 1989, and then purchased again by Paramount Parks just 3 years later. This led to a lot of expansion throughout the 90s, including the new roller coasters of Vortex, a small stand-up roller coaster from Bolliger and Mabillard, Top Gun, which was later renamed Flight Deck, which was an intense B&M inverted coaster, and Invertigo, a Vekoma inverted boomerang. The park opened up the 2000s with a massive new addition, Stealth, the world's first major flying coaster, a concept that would later be refined by Bolliger and Mabillard. The next major event in the park's history came in 2006, when the park was purchased by Cedar Fair, which brought along the park's current name, California's Great America. Cedar Fair opened their tenure with the park by actually not doing too much, with the first major addition being what I consider to be the best ride in the park, Gold Striker, a fantastic GCI wooden roller coaster that really surprised me in my time at the park. The next major change in the park was when Vortex, the park's stand-up coaster, was converted to a sit-down style train, following the same thing being done at Rougarou at Cedar Point. Then, in 2018, California's Great America added Railblazer, another fantastic roller coaster, this time being one of the prototype RMC Raptors, which have insane pacing and ridiculous forces. And that, for the most part, brings us to today, and our next topic. California's Great America was sold to Prologis, a logistics real estate company, in 2022. The terms of the sale allows the park to be open until at most 2033, but this is very unlikely. Now, many news outlets are reporting the park is very likely to close near the end of the 2027 operating season. This is due to a clause in the sale agreement that the park must close by June 2028 unless the lease is extended. And with June being near the middle of CGA's operating season, it makes no sense to keep the park open past 2027 unless Prologis or Six Flags exercise the lease extension, which isn't likely. And that is a real shame, because I really enjoyed my time at this park. It has a distinct small park atmosphere that makes it feel very welcoming and nice. Not to mention that the ride lineup is actually really good. You have a great top end with Gold Striker, Railblazer, and Flight Deck, and none of the other rides I went on were all that bad either. I hope that most, if not all of the rides can be saved. And that brings us to our next segment, what's next for this park and its rides? Well, that is actually a pretty complicated question. I mean, there is no reason for the park to add any more rides. And where would the existing rides even go? So, I'm going to go through the top 3 roller coasters and say where I think they could go, in order for most to least likely. And first on that list is Railblazer. Now, the first option I have for Railblazer is Michigan's Adventure. Michigan's Adventure is a small park that really needs a big number 2 or even number 1 ride to Shivering Timbers. Besides, the existing theme and trains already kind of fit the Michigan location, especially since the park is in a relatively highly wooded area, with it being a little ways away from downtown Muskegon. The only negative being that the future of this park is a little on the ropes after the fall event got canceled this year. Personally, I don't think this is a huge cause for concern, and this is my favorite landing spot for this amazing RMC Raptor. Number 2 is Cedar Point. Oh, people are going to hate me for this one, and for good reason. This park does not need another elite ride, but I would not count this option out. I mean, Six Flags has been known to make some questionable decisions on where their rides get moved to / built, especially when it involves their golden child. I mean, just look at Siren's Curse and the whole Six Flags Mexico situation. And with the removal of St. River Falls, you have a pretty decent plot of land that would probably be big enough for a small-scale raptor like Railblazer. Again, Cedar Point does not need this at all, but you can't really count it out. And the third landing spot I have is Knott's Berry Farm. If I had to choose one more spot that Railblazer would land, I would definitely choose Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California, which is a few hundred miles down the road from CGA, which makes the sort of logistics of moving a ride like this make a lot more sense. The ride's small footprint also helps out a ton because Knott's has very, very limited space. And, using Google Earth, I found a perfect spot for Railblazer, right where Coast Rider sits on the boardwalk. From what I've seen, nobody likes this ride. So, demolishing it and putting an RMC Raptor there that could contend for top 3 in the park is a no-brainer. Besides, it really isn't too tight of a fit. I mean, it would probably have some elements that would need to go over the coaster diner, like the lift hill, but it probably wouldn't need to squeeze too much. And the next ride is Flight Deck. Now, the first option I have is King's Dominion. This is actually one of the only parks in the entire chain without a B&M inverted coaster, so this makes a lot of sense. Also, the park could probably incorporate a jungle theme into the ride and just put it into Jungle X. Easy peasy. And next, once again, I have Michigan's Adventure. Yes, we're putting it on here again, mainly for 2 reasons. 1, this park doesn't have a B&M inverted coaster. And 2, this park has a lake. This is important because Flight Deck does utilize a small pond during its final helix, and this would make it a little easier to put in and integrate. Plus, I don't think this ride is too similar to the Vekoma SLC that already is at Michigan's Adventure. Apart from the obvious similarity of them being inverted coasters, the SLC is far more intense, and the B&M is more smooth and flowy. And for number 3, I actually have a kind of wild card option, and it is that Flight Deck gets sold to another chain. I put down either Herschend or United Parks for doing this, and I think this is actually a pretty likely solution, because while a lot of the Six Flags parks have B&M inverted coasters, a lot of the Herschend and the SeaWorld and Busch Gardens parks do not. Think of parks like Silver Dollar City, Dollywood, and SeaWorld San Diego that could really use another quality coaster. The San Diego park in particular excites me because that park also has a massive presence on the water, so the Helix could really work well. Plus, that park also needs another major thrill roller coaster other than Emperor, which really lacks in the Positive G department, an area which Flight Deck exceeds at. One issue would be the park's height restriction, but I think if the city approves, this is another great option. And the least likely roller coaster I think to get moved is Gold Striker. The first option I had of where Gold Striker can land is Canada's Wonderland. Now, as I said, I know the logistics of moving a massive wind roller coaster probably isn't favorable, but this park has the space and also has the need for this kind of attraction. Gold Striker would give them a great top 3 roller coaster that also fills a large gap in their lineup. A really good wooden roller coaster. Remove flight deck and time warp and you have a great place for this ride, right at the front where it should be. Just theme it up a little bit and you have an amazing addition to this park. And number 2, we have Six Flags Fiesta Texas. I don't quite know how or if Gold Striker would fit into the space the park has, but this would be a great option for a Gold Striker. Like Canada's Wonderland, it has a real need for a standout wooden roller coaster, and this would do just that. Again, how it would fit, I don't really know, but Six Flags should definitely look into this location. And number 3, the most likely in my eyes, is Carolman's. People have speculated that this park is getting a good wooden roller coaster for a little while now, and this would do just that, while being relatively cheap compared to constructing one from scratch. This park also needs a large wooden coaster to fill a gap in their lineup, and this would also do just that. Not to mention, this park does not have a huge space issue, so this would really check all of the boxes. And that is pretty much going to do it for my video on the impending demise of California's Grand America. This whole situation is just really sad, and I hope that you guys can get one more visit to this amazing park. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye.